Jagmeet Singh announcing his run for Parliament to actually get a seat in the House of Commons. This riding, by the way, Burnaby South, was won by the NDP in the last two elections at least. Let's listen in here.
Instead of that, we want to invest in clean energy to create good jobs for this sector. So there's a lot of different things we need to do, and I want to be there to help. Do you think that will help the popularity of the NDP when you get a seat in the House of Commons for the next session? More than that, for me, it's not just a question of popularity, it's a question of the issues that affect the people. It's how to help people. That's the big issue.
What's to stop you from running somewhere else in the general election, given the fact that your hometown is so far away?
I'm committed to Burnaby South. I'm all in on Burnaby. My wife and I talked about it, and we're going to run here.
So if you win, you'll move here, and you're committed to here for the next however many years?
Absolutely.
My question was similar to that. You don't live in Burnaby. You're going to be focused on federal issues. How can you effectively represent the people of Burnaby South?
Well, a national leader needs to represent all Canadians across Canada. That's the job of a national leader.
But what about the people here and their specific issues?
Absolutely. And so those issues are very important. And those issues, we've talked about some of those issues. The issues that touch the people of Burnaby, the people of Burnaby South, are the issues that we've talked about. Housing. Housing is a massive issue. And pushing hard on these issues is what people want to see happen. We need to push the government because their plan to invest in housing 2 years from now doesn't make any sense when we know that's a housing crisis right now. We need to push on that. We know that healthcare and access to medications is a massive issue. We've talked about the hospital in Burnaby. We need to stop what the Liberals have done, which is to cut funding for healthcare by $36 billion over the next 10 years. The Liberals actually enacted a conservative plan. We need to push back against that. These are the issues that impact people here in Burnaby South, and I'm committed to fighting hard on those issues.
So just to be clear, if you win, you're moving to Burnaby.
Absolutely.
Mr. Singh, this is a riding that the NDP won narrowly in 2015. Mr. Stewart there has written in the Tyee about what a tough slog, what a challenge it was to win the riding so narrowly. What's your path to victory here, especially in a riding where the margins are so slim? And a follow-up after that.
Sure. So I ran for the first time ever in Brampton, and people told us that it couldn't be done. People said that you can't win in Brampton. It's never been NDP forever. And we focus in on people. We focus in on the issues that people are faced with. And we talked about what we can do as a party, what can we do as a representative to push the government to ensure that people see justice. And we're going to do that. We're going to talk about the issues that matter to people. And we're going to use that platform that I have as a leader to talk about housing, to talk about pharmacare, to talk about healthcare, to talk about the issues that matter, that we don't need to be investing billions of public dollars in a 65-year-old leaky pipeline. We need to be investing in clean energy jobs for today and tomorrow. These are the issues that we're going to continue to advance.
What makes this political risk necessary now? And have you thought about the damage to your leadership if you don't win?
I thought about the fact that Canadians can't afford to wait. Canadians can't afford to wait for action on housing. Canadians can't afford to wait for action on pharmacare, on healthcare. They can't afford to wait on a government that seems not to be committed to investing in the future, clean energy jobs and clean energy. We need to have action now, and we need to push this government to do the things that we need now.
Kelvin Valley, Burnaby now.
I'll come back and chat with folks in a quick sec. I just want to make sure I wrap up with the media first. Okay. We'll chat for sure, yeah.
So the Prime Minister is under no obligation to call a by-election before the general election. Are you confident that that will happen?
Well, I'm confident that the people of Burnaby and the rest of the by-elections across Canada, they deserve to have representation. And it's up to the government to make sure that people have that representation. And it's all of your job to hold the government to account and make sure that they actually call those by-elections and make sure people have representation.
And if there isn't a by-election, will you still run in the general election here?
I've said I've committed to this riding, and I'm committed all the way.
Hi, Jagmeet. Taranum, how are you?
Hey, how are you?
Very well, thank you. Punjabi ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਮੈਨੂੰ ਜਵਾਬ ਦੇ ਦਿਓ ਪਲੀਜ਼।
ਜ਼ਰੂਰ ਜੀ।
ਤੁਸੀਂ ਇਹ ਅੰਗਰੇਜ਼ੀ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਕਵਰ ਕਰ ਚੁੱਕੇ ਹੋ ਪਰ ਬਰਨਬੀ ਸਾਊਥ ਨੂੰ ਹੀ ਕਿਉਂ ਚੁਣਿਆ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਆਪਣੀ ਰਾਈਡਿੰਗ ਵਾਸਤੇ?
ਜਦੋਂ ਮੈਂ ਪਹਿਲਾਂ ਇੱਥੇ ਆਇਆ ਸੀਗਾ ਮੈਨੂੰ ਇੱਕਦਮ ਇੱਕ ਕਨੈਕਸ਼ਨ ਮਹਿਸੂਸ ਹੋਇਆ ਕਿ ਇੱਥੇ ਲੋਕੀ ਬੜੇ ਪ੍ਰੇਮੀ ਲੋਕੀ ਨੇ ਤੇ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਦੇ ਜੋ ਅਸੂਲ ਨੇ ਜੋ ਚਾਹੁੰਦੇ ਨੇ ਮੇਰੇ ਨਾਲ ਕਾਫੀ ਸਹਿਮਤੀ ਲੱਗੀ ਤੇ ਮੈਨੂੰ ਬਹੁਤ ਮਾਣ ਹੈ ਕਿ ਬੜਾ ਸੋਹਣਾ ਇਲਾਕਾ ਆ ਬੜੇ ਵਧੀਆ ਲੋਕੀ ਨੇ।
All right, we're just listening in here to a live news conference going on. Jagmeet Singh announcing that he will run in the federal riding of Burnaby South, which is in British Columbia, not far from Vancouver. He took over the federal NDP in October of 2017, but has not had a seat in Parliament. And of course, that leads to a whole bunch of things. There are those who have said he has not been enough in the news cycle. He's not there part of the process in Parliament. So this is an opportunity for him to change the math, so to speak. This is a riding that is favorable to the New Democrats. Let's listen in again here.
Punjabi, French, and English. Yes.
Hey, Michael with National Observer.
Hey.
Assuming that you get elected, do you have a plan to do something about the pipeline?
Yeah, we've made it clear. My position is clear. We should not be spending public dollars on a pipeline like that. We should be investing in clean energy jobs. Made it very clear.
Do you have a platform for that, or is that just your statement at the moment?
Our position is very clear. We should not be spending our dollars that way. We have so many other priorities. We can create jobs and we can create opportunities in a much more effective way that's long-lasting, that's sustainable, and that's our commitment.
I'm going to have to try to videotape this, so...
Hi.
Give me strength. Hi, I'm Marcella from News 1130, and
Hey.
just wanted to ask you, what is your commitment to the voters of Burnaby South? Because a lot of people think you've been parachuted in here in what's considered a safe riding. So what are the issues in this riding in particular that you plan to fight for?
Well, I've touched on some of them. I think some of the major issues that people are faced with in Burnaby is housing. Housing is a massive issue. People can't afford to live in the neighborhoods they've grown up in. People can't find places to live. They can't find places to buy. We've got to do something about the housing affordability crisis. And really what we've seen is the provincial government has stepped up. They've made a commitment. We've seen the municipal government have conversations about stepping up with some changes to zoning bylaws. But the federal government has been absent. And we're in this position right now because of 10 years of conservative inaction. The current Liberal government's proposing to do something in 2 years. People can't afford to wait. We need action now, and that's what I'm committed to doing on housing. And then on healthcare. Thank you. And then on healthcare, a massive issue. People are talking about healthcare wherever I go in Burnaby. Healthcare is a massive issue. We've got long wait times. We have a hospital that needs to be updated. We need to build a new hospital. And these are major issues. And we know that the current Liberal government has actually passed massive cuts to healthcare funding. And I've talked about that. They've passed cuts which will result in $36 billion cuts across Canada over the next 10 years. That's what their plan is. That's what they've done. And we know that healthcare is a massive issue, and we've got to invest in healthcare, not cut from healthcare. So these are some of the issues that we'll push on.
Just a quick follow-up. Do you believe that the voters in this riding support not buying Kinder Morgan's pipeline?
I think the people of this riding believe that we could do a lot better with billions of public dollars, that we should be investing that in a sector that will be long-lasting, in a sector that will create jobs for the future, and that will protect our environment, that will defend our environment. That's what the people of this riding believe in. I'm absolutely confident.
You talk about healthcare, the pipeline, housing in Burnaby. But what's one thing that you don't really understand about Burnaby and that you need to learn about the people here?
Well, I think that's something that's going to be ongoing. One of the things that I was really struck by, which is really unique when we talk about cities, I've gone and done roundtables at different cities and asked, what do people care about? And one of the issues that really struck me as unique is that people were really passionate about their parks in Burnaby. They care about the fact that there's such a deep connection to the environment with the ravines and water that flows into the Fraser. That has never come up when I've done a roundtable meeting before. I've never heard that many people so concerned about their parklands and the environment in that really direct way. That's something I'm looking forward to learning more about.
you know, whenever you're asked about the pipeline right now, you keep talking about not using public dollars to build the pipeline, but are you flat out against the pipeline if it weren't to be public dollars?
Yeah, I was against, I've indicated my opposition to this during my leadership. So that's months and months ago. And I reaffirmed it as I became leader.
Just three quick questions. The pipeline, you're not in support of investing in the pipeline. Is your policy that the pipeline investment should be sold? Like you're saying you don't want to put money in it, that's fine, but the government will have bought the pipeline presumably in coming months. Are you saying it should be sold off or what?
Well, I'm saying that that's not an effective use of our public dollars. And so the starting point is I'm saying that we should not make that investment. And we should immediately do whatever we can to ensure that we're using our public dollars for something that's long-term, that's sustainable, something that invests in green energy, in clean energy jobs. That's where we should be putting our resources.
And any thoughts or views on the dem-evictions that have been underway in Burnaby, especially around the Metrotown Mall area?
Well, when I talked about in the beginning of my talk, I think it's so important that we acknowledge that having a place to call home is just a basic thing that we all need. It's the basic building block of a society is that people have a place to call home. And when you don't have a place to call home, that can be something that's incredibly stressful, frustrating. And we've got to make sure that people have the housing that they need. But we've got to look at why we're here. We're in this position today because we've had a BC Liberal government that's done nothing on affordable housing and not made those investments over so many years, far too many years. We've had a federal government that's not made those investments. When there was a Conservative government, over those 10 years, no investments. And now with the current Liberal government, they're investing, well, they're talking about it in 2 years from now. So we're in this position because of the inaction of different levels of government, and we've got to be committed to doing it. Now we have a federal government that's, again, not really doing anything, a provincial government that is ready, and a city that's talking about the right steps. We've got to step out as a federal government. We're saying it's not warm enough up here. We're just going to make sure we answer all the media folks' questions real quick, and then we're going to come down and I'll have a chat with everybody.
Jagmeet, wish you all the best for your this announcement.
Thank you.
But why the party can't decide on choosing a local leader? They chose you.
Well, I made the choice. I said that I want to do this after having spoken with lots of people. I met with lots of people in the riding that really encouraged me, and they said we'd love for you to represent this riding. Thank you. And more importantly...
All right, so we have been listening to this live news conference from Jagmeet Singh in Burnaby, British Columbia, just east of Vancouver. Singh announcing he is going to run in an upcoming by-election in the federal riding of Burnaby South. This area of BC, by the way, is an NDP stronghold. The electoral districts, yes, of Burnaby South, but also neighboring Burnaby Douglas, Burnaby New West as well, New Westminster, electing federal New Democrats going back years. In fact, the riding, Burnaby South, is currently held by the NDP. It's MP Kennedy Stewart stepping aside to run as a mayoral candidate in the city of Vancouver. Jagmeet Singh, 39 years old. He took over the federal NDP less than 1 year ago in October 2017. But there is an election coming up federally, of course, in just over a year. And he would certainly like to be in Parliament. And in order to do that, he's got to win a seat. Seems like Burnaby South will be something of a slam dunk.